From Vermont Public, this is The Frequency. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. It's Monday, July 14th, and here are today's headlines. Some Vermont communities are working to recover from flood damage that hit the region last Thursday night. The storms dropped 3 to 5 inches of rain in localized areas, mostly confined to Addison County and the Northeast Kingdom. Most damages were reported in Sutton, Burke, and East Haven, that according to the National Weather Service. Robert Haynes is a meteorologist at their Burlington office.
So, for example, the site at West Burke had about 3.1 inches of rain in just an hour, but surrounding sites nearby were mainly in the 1 to 2 inch range, so just really highly localized stuff in that region.
Michelle Tanner says she had to evacuate her home on Sutton Hollow Road in waist-deep water. Volunteers helped Tanner and her husband rescue the animals in their barn, and she says she doesn't know how much damage the flooding has done to her home yet. She's lived there for 25 years.
It is horrible to realize that you got so many years into it and it just can be gone. But I'm thankful that everyone is safe, the animals and us, and so that's all that really matters.
The storm came on the same day as 2 consecutive years of catastrophic flooding that occurred in Vermont. Meanwhile, many Vermont communities are still waiting on federal disaster aid to pay for extensive flood damage from the last 2 summers. And Senator Peter Welch has introduced legislation he says would streamline the Federal Emergency Management Agency.
What we've seen in Vermont is that in the long-term recovery, it's got to be reformed so there's much more local control, local decision-making, and local empowerment to move ahead on the recovery.
Welch's bill would decentralize FEMA and give more administrative power over spending to states and local communities. President Trump has proposed similar reforms at FEMA. A New Hampshire man sentenced for taking part in the January 6th riots at the U.S. Capitol in 2021 wants to reject President Trump's pardon. New Hampshire Public Radio reports Jason Riddle of Keene, New Hampshire, was sentenced to 90 days jail time for his role in the riots at the U.S. Capitol, and he says he does not deserve to be pardoned for that. Riddle is now working with New Hampshire Senator Maggie Hassan's office to decline Trump's pardon. Hassan's office submitted an official request to the Department of Justice earlier this week. And Congress has voted to allow states to regulate artificial intelligence efforts in the future, and that decision could impact a key bill at the Vermont State House. Vergennes Representative Matt Byron is the chair of the House Government Operations Committee. He says it's critical for the public to know when AI has been used in a political campaign or promotional materials, and he's strongly supporting legislation that calls for all campaign ads to disclose when AI has been used.
AI technology, as everyone knows, is evolving so rapidly. And a state like Vermont that doesn't have anything on the books, we really need to start catching up to the technology itself.
Byron says the legislation is in the final stages of passage and could be adopted early in the 2026 session. Coming up, it's the end of an era for a toy store that's been part of Waterbury Village for the past 20 years. We'll hear about the closing of the Tiny Acorn after this.
Thanks for listening to The Frequency, where support comes from Alpine Telehealth, offering telepsychiatry solutions for Vermont hospital, community mental health, and primary care. Physician-owned and operated since 2018. Learn more at alpinetelehealth.com.
In the heart of Waterbury Village, there's a toy store called the Tiny Acorn. Sally and Bob Dane have run the store for 2 decades. At the end of the summer, though, they plan to retire, and the Tiny Acorn will close on August 15th. Devin Pierce of the University of Vermont Community News Service talked with the Danes about the store and its legacy.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to the Tiny Acorn.
Hi, I'm Sally Dane.
I'm Bob Dane.
And we've been married for 50 years. So there you go. So the Tiny Acorn is 21 years old.
We're one of the oldest, still under the same ownership, stores in Waterbury.
And this is going to be our last year. The Tiny Acorn was a dream. After being children's librarian in Waterbury for many, many years, I realized things were changing and I wanted to do something different. And so I took a women's small business class, and the Tiny Acorn was born. All right, so as you enter the Tiny Acorn, you're greeted with magic. You experience joy for the first time when you look into our entrance. We usually have it based on holidays, whatever holiday's coming up. And, we wrap presents and put them up for display. We just do whatever makes us feel joy.
I would say the average day is one of glee for the kids coming into the store because it definitely attracts them. In fact, there are many days when I'm looking out the door and I see kids coming out of the Village Market food store with their mother or father, and they see the tiny acorn and they grab them and they want to pull them over. Sometimes the kids are quite persuasive and they get their way. Sometimes the parent has to say, no, I've got ice cream in the bag here. It's middle of August. But the parents realize that we have things that are child useful as far as their mind and their hands to interact with. And I think what also makes it fun for adults is they see things and it reminds them of their childhood.
We have these glass animals. They're tiny. We've been selling them from the beginning. And we have kids come in and select some. But their parent or grandparent said, oh, I bought those when I was a little child. You can have 3 generations here going through our glass animals. So that's kind of neat to see that. And we see that a lot. Bob turned 80 in November. We celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary in October. We had grandkids we don't see that often. And we just knew that it was time.
I think the next step in our lives after the tiny acorn will be exploration. We can go on day trips, trying out new things, and perhaps doing a day or 2 of volunteering somewhere.
We'll miss the tiger, and I'll miss the giraffe greeting me and the polar bear. We'll miss these friends in the store, but maybe somebody will continue with our tiger and giraffe and we can come in and say hello. It's been fun because you're almost playing every day. So if you have a dream of running a toy store, do it. Take a chance.
That was Sally and Bob Dane talking with Devin Pierce for the University of Vermont Community News Service. Thanks for listening to The Frequency today. We had additional reporting from Lexi Krupp, Peter Hirschfeld, Mary Engish, and Bob Kinzel. Today's episode was edited by Stephanie Colombini, and our music is by Blue Dot Sessions. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. My colleague Mary Engish will be filling in on The Frequency for a couple of days, but I'll talk to you again soon.
These days, there's so much news, it can be hard to keep up with what it all means for you, your family, and your community. The Consider This podcast from NPR features our award-winning journalism. 6 days a week, we bring you a deep dive on a news story and provide the context and analysis that helps you make sense of the news. We get behind the headlines. We get to the truth. Listen to the Consider This podcast from NPR.